So I'm gonna kind of shift gears a bit following Maggie. I feel like my presentation is really shrunk down to the local scale, and I want to talk specifically about some of the things that I've experienced working in a smaller northern WPAC. So when I think of northern Alberta and where I live, these are kind of some things that are quite common to see. So we got our oil and gas, our forestry, our pipelines, our agriculture, and our recreational users. I don't think this is uncommon for a lot of Alberta. So I just kind of wanted to start by painting the picture of this is what it looks like where we're at. So how is it different in northern Alberta? Well, some of you guys may not realize that the center of Alberta is actually near Swan Hills. So right now we're considered to be quite central, so central. So we have a smaller dispersed population. There's limited academic involvement in our projects and WPAC things because we don't have universities or colleges and an abundance of students needing project work, that sort of thing. And I find that there's a lot less research going on. There's less data collection. Maggie mentioned long-term river networks. We don't have one. We really want one. Lesser Slave Lake needs one, but we'll get there. And we have a limited number of people engaging in on-the-ground stewardship. We don't have any watershed stewardship groups that are specifically dedicated to lake and lake-related projects. And there's lots of NGOs working in our region. Agriculture, there's a lot of agriculture-related groups, but they're all kind of similar. We have a small office, small staff, small annual budget. So why not partner, right? We also have unique opportunities. Small towns have things cities don't. Did you know that you can go to the local grocery store and see pretty much everybody in town if you stay there, for the right amount of time, the after work period? Our grocery store is as busy as a Tim Hortons, and we have set up shop to do a survey in the foyer of the grocery store. It's totally common for community groups to be engaging in the grocery store or the post office. Community events like Ducks Unlimited events, local fishing tournaments, Ag Society. There's lots of smaller groups that are more than happy to piggyback with what you're doing. So I kind of wanted to go through some of the successful partnerships that we've built over the last 5-6 years, and some of our engagement strategies, what's worked, what hasn't worked, that kind of thing, and how we've engaged with stakeholders or not, and how we can improve. So one group that I formed a partnership with early on in my WPAC career was the Lesser Slave Watershed Education Society. They've been working to deliver environmental education to schools and people of all ages in our watershed for many years. And I thought to myself, these guys already have a great reputation in our local schools. There's not that many schools, and there's not that many opportunities for other groups to come in. So rather than trying to add a whole nother layer of programming to what they already have going on, let's partner with the Forest Education Society. So they've been really great. We've been able to contribute financially about $10,000 a year, and we provide ourselves for staff as staff support to lead field trips and do presentations. Each year, I have the 2012-13 statistics here, but the water-related programming is about 25% of what the total programming is. Wetlands, aquatic ecosystems, invertebrates, and spruce bogs, and life cycles. There's a lot of curriculum links. So in 2012-13, we had 97 separate presentations related to the watershed stuff, and there's about 1,969 people. MJ, their director, keeps very good statistics. And in 2013-14, we see slightly increased numbers. Here's some of the highlights of working with the LSFES. Grade 5 always does spruce bogs and wetlands. Grade 1, 3, and 5, we search for invertebrates. We call it marsh monsters. And that's always fun when somebody brings you a giant ridiculous spider or a giant water beetle and they, oh look, I'm supposed to be so thrilled, and sometimes I just want to throw them, but I don't. And this little guy here, this was part of Boreal Rescue Summer Camp. right here. He's dressed up, he's right into it. This is our former watershed coordinator, Lindsay. She was Aqua Girl, like gold spandex, dressed right up. She's very enthusiastic. So we have some really good times doing work with them. And we were nominated for a school division award as an educational partner. So we didn't win it, but we were nominated. I thought that was great. Our municipal district of Big Lakes has an agricultural department, and they've been supporting us to deliver watershed-related work through the ag department. We've been able to get $15,000 a year for the past 4 years because they don't really have the extension staff to do watershed education and awareness type stuff. So they support us to kind of deliver that with them and for them. So some of our projects, a lot of our projects have focused on education, some monitoring and assessment and reporting. MD staff have been really good. For example, the aquatic invasive species signs, the clean, drain, dry signs. Our municipal districts, both Big Lakes and Lesser Slave River, their summer staff installed the 14 AIS signs throughout our watershed. So I think we've got every lake access point and boat launch covered. So yay, Kate will be happy. And the municipalities have been really great about sharing wastewater sample data. Prior to releasing lagoons, they take samples and during discharge, and we've been able to access that for the purposes of developing a nutrient budget and for our projects. Another group in our region is called Peace Country Beef and Forage Association. They're a not-for-profit, board of directors, volunteers, similar structure to a WPAC, I guess. And they mainly work with beef producers. They do environmental farm plans, pasture management planning, feed and forage solutions, and obviously stressing the implementation of best practices to improve watershed and watershed health. So we partner with them wherever possible because their group is the producers and the cattlemen in the region, so we go to them. We actually were able to purchase a solar watering system with a PennWest grant a few years ago, and rather than us using this because producer projects are kind of their thing, we give them our solar water to use in their programming, and we're recognized as a supporter. And there's different events that they put on that we participate in, and usually if there's going to be some sort of environmental event, it's us, the Peace Country Beef and Forage, the municipalities. It's the same groups usually because we're all small, so we get together quite often. Nature Alberta, provincial scale. Lesser Slave Lake has a lot of shoreline residents, pressure for development, so we've been trying to promote the Living by Water program. So this year, Greg from Living by Water, and I see he's on the agenda. Is he here today? Where's Greg? He's not here today yet. He visited 6 folks in GSARD this year, shoreline residents, and did the home site assessments, and I had really positive feedback from those folks. So I'm really hoping that we can promote it and get more landowners and more homeowners signed up next year. Free to us. We promote it, we sign the landowners up, and the Nature Alberta staff come and deliver this program. So another way to leverage a program and somebody else's skills in our own watershed. We also did the program in 2008, and they visited about 14 people. So that's a partnership I hope to continue because it is great, and we have lots of pressure on our lake. ALMS, our friends at ALMS, the Alberta Lake Management Society. Last conference I was at was my own in Slave Lake. We had about 85 people registered for the 21st annual ALMS workshop. Our theme was Lesser Slave Lake, exploring the past and planning for the future. So our presentations included technical, policy, and stewardship, kind of. So I thought that it was really well attended. We didn't get that many community folks from the community out. Not a lot of stewardship groups. We didn't engage random citizens in coming to the conference. I didn't see any complete strangers just walking in, registering. So maybe in the future, encouraging citizens who are just want to get involved in some way to come out to our events and see what we're all about, that would be great. Through ALMS, we've also done the Lake Watch program on Snipe Lake and Fawcett Lake. They're two of the smaller lakes in our watershed. And my dad was one of the lucky volunteers who took the techs out to Snipe Lake 5 times throughout the summer. And I think they turned him into a watershed steward. So good job on my dad, guys. And we also used the ALMS Aqua Day test kits on our field trips with the Forest Education Society. So these are all examples of how you can take bits and pieces of programming from other folks and incorporate it into what you're doing, because we're all short of money and time and people. And here's some of the highlights of our workshop. I thought it was really great. We had a good working session discussing the roles and responsibilities around water, who should be a leader, who should be a participant, who should be an information source, and all this information. It took us a long time. There's a lot of discussions, a lot of arguments about who has what roles when it comes to water management, which was not surprising. We had a lot of great presentations. Down on the bottom is Monica from Peace Country Beef and Forage. She is sharing some of their programming with us. And we had an awesome field trip. We had a barbecue lunch at Big Fish Bay. That's down the bottom there, right on the lakeshore. And then we visited the South Shore Wastewater Treatment Facility and went through there. It's actually a phosphorus removal, mechanical treatment phosphorus removal station. So that was interesting and stinky. So what hasn't worked? Open houses. People don't come to open houses in the evening. You get home from work, you feed the kids, you watch your 6 o'clock news, and you're not going to go out again, drive to town. In our case, we have a lot of rural community members. And people are just not going to make the effort to come back in for an evening event. So we're trying not to do the advertised open house, come see us. Don't present things that are too technical. And don't expect people to come to us. You have to figure out where they are. I found one really good success, the local small town newspaper. We're lucky we have a regional newspaper. It covers Slave Lake, High Prairie, and Falers, that pretty much distributes all around our watershed. And the newspaper owners are really great. Pretty much anything I write and send to them, they'll publish it. So I find that our small town newspaper still really is a good way to get information out. Social media is growing with a different kind of demographic, with younger people and more tech-savvy people, but a lot of the farmers are not on their computers that much. They pick up the paper and they flip through it, and they want to see who's in the paper, what's in the paper. And I agree, I do it too. I flip through the paper to see who's in there that I know. So some of the things to get members of the public out that we found had worked. We had a garden night. We called it a garden night, and we pitched it with a local greenhouse lady, and we threw in education about aquatic and riparian invasives and invasives that people may or may not be planting in their yards and gardens. So we found that was a success. We filled our room, and that was in partnership with the MD Ag department. So that was a good one, something a little bit different. And we did some hands-on planting at the end, so that got people to the table. Through our social media, each year during Canada Water Week for the past few years, we've been having a Facebook contest, and some of our posts were getting like 800-900 hits, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that big, but in a small watershed with maybe 10,000-12,000 people total in the whole watershed, that's pretty good, I think. Fishing tournaments, the people who go to fishing tournaments are committed. They love the lake. That's their sport. They're passionate about it. So we have went to fishing tournaments. I think there's a money opportunity there. If we were selling detailed bathymetry maps, the fishermen would pay big bucks for them. So I'm going to make a note to make sure I have some next time. But, I mean, you can throw in a brochure. The fishing tournament organizers usually put together a package, and we've been putting our information in with the registration packages so that they are getting it. Our stewardship handbook, we've got lots of requests for that. We do something fun. We hosted the Ducks Unlimited fundraiser banquet last year, and while it wasn't directly in support of our own organization, Ducks Unlimited is pretty well known in a small town when someone comes with the Ducks Unlimited forms, and people are really willing to donate to the cause. And we kind of use that as to piggyback on that event to get our organization more well known. So unfortunately, we didn't make a lot of money, but I feel that the exposure to the community members, I mean, they're already thinking wetlands, wetland conservation. It's not a big stretch to go to full watershed. So I thought that was it was successful. It was sold out. We're not hosting it again this year just due to time constraints and the summit and the ALMS conference, and we just didn't have time. And use the kids. They tell their parents everything. We've done, Trout Unlimited has this Yellowfish Road program where we paint yellow fish near the storm drains. The kids do it, and they just learn where the stuff on the street goes. And they'll tell their parents about that when they get home. The Caring for Our Watersheds program, I know Natalie at the Battle River is one of the coordinators for that, and we have tried to pitch that in our schools, the high schools, but I find that high school students are a little harder to engage than the younger ones. So you gotta find something that's cool and interesting for them. If they can do it on their iPhone or they're gonna get a prize like iTunes gift cards, I find that motivates high school students a lot more. Coloring contests, that's easy for the young kids. We have a board member who's part owner of a helicopter company, so our coloring contests are pretty popular because we can give a helicopter ride to a few kids, the winners. So that's always good. Another successful event we did, we got some funding from the RBC Blue Water Project to promote home water efficiency and conservation. So we sold rain barrels, and you wouldn't believe it. Look at that lineup. People love rain barrels. 5 minutes, okay. I'm on slide 15, 5 more minutes. Okay, so this was really successful, but it also created some hard feelings because we had a limited amount of rain barrels, obviously. We spent $5,000 buying them, and we sold them for a discounted rate, and people wanted them, and they were all lined up. And some people got their rain barrels, they were happy. The people who didn't were a little cheesed off. So we are going to do it again so that people start thinking of it annually. In the spring, the watershed people will be having these rain barrels if we can get more funding. And we also produced an informational brochure about home water use and water efficiency in your yard and garden. So we got the educational piece in there with that too. We've partnered with our local branches of RBC to do things like Blue Water Day barbecues, and there with the truck we did a riverbank cleanup this spring, and for our efforts they gave us a $1,000 check in June. So, you know, the ATB has an environmental program, TD, Friends of the Environment through the TD Bank, and RBC Blue Water. So we are charitable, so we are eligible to access those foundational grants, and we've made some successful local partnerships there. Engaging with our local government, it's in our operational plan that myself, I will go out to the council meetings at least twice a year. So there's 2 towns and 2 municipalities. So in a way, it's kind of good being in a smaller watershed because you can get to everybody. I will be joining our Municipal Planning Commission in the MDA Big Lakes here in the next month. So they asked me to submit my name because they need somebody with a little bit of planning background and who has the environmental background, and because it's councillors and it's members at large. So the folks around the table may or may not, you know, have the resources or the information needed. So I feel like I could provide a lot of either resources because I know where to get these things, contacts to people in the government or other agencies, that sort of thing. Local governments they may not have, in small towns, they may not have somebody committed to the environment, so they're more than willing to partner with us for things like garden night. We're going to be doing some green acreages workshops through the land stewardship program there, and aquatic invasive species awareness. Municipalities are aware of it, but they don't really know, they don't have somebody to do this, so they're more than willing to partner with us for stuff. And sector-specific opportunities, we're going to be hosting a municipal water boot camp. It's for staff, council, and people working in economic development, and I've kind of opened it up to people on Municipal Planning Commission, so that's coming up in November, and hoping that it will be successful. We've had limited success in engaging with our 5 First Nations in the watershed. We formally met with 2 of the 5, and we've communicated with them, but the biggest barriers that we've experienced to date have been, there's a lack of understanding about WPACs and who we are and exactly what we do. Are we government? Are we non-government? Consultation versus engagement, all that stuff. Some mistrust of the government, just in general, the processes. And what I did learn was that each nation has their own consultation and engagement strategy, or consultation process. They are their own government, so take the time to learn each one individually, don't group them all together. Engaging with industry. The forest industry has been really good. They have 2 times a year they have forest public advisory meetings, and they invite us to those, share information and talk to the people in the group. We've had limited engagement with oil and gas. I think partly because the people who we want at the table are people who can make decisions, and the decision makers sit in Calgary and not in Slave Lake or High Prairie, which usually don't have big head offices. So it's hard to get people like environmental coordinators from Calgary to our table just because of geography. And the oil and gas lifestyle is busy. People don't have time to volunteer, especially from November to April. They just go, 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 go. So I'm finding that with our current oil and gas board rep right now, he's already finding that he's not having enough time to get with our group very often. So how can we improve when we're engaging and trying to build partnerships? Tailor to the needs of who we're engaging with. Find out what they need. Do they need sector-specific information materials? Are they, yeah, I can meet with you, but for half an hour on the computer. Well, okay, we can do that. Be flexible, whatever works for them. You know, some people, you go to their house and have coffee with them if that's what it takes. Like Bob said, you're gonna have like 1,000 cups of coffee and you may or may not get anywhere, but you need to put in the time. Yeah, go to them. Show up at your municipal office, show up at, you know, if your board member works at some store, go to that, go see them at work, make the time to go to them. Because often if you can just get them to spare 10 minutes, you can have a good conversation. And like I said before, don't group your First Nations or Aboriginal groups into one category. They're all independent. I'm getting the frowny face. They get to know them individually and find out what works for them and what they need individually. And here's the last slide. That's myself, our chair Tammy, and Megan, my watershed coordinator at the Alliance conference a few weeks ago. And I brought a few examples of project reports and stuff over at our display. And if you guys need anything else, feel free to get in touch with me. I'll be around the whole event.